everyone, welcome and thanks for tuning in to LCC Remix, where we unpack the latest message in a deeper way. We hope this episode encourages and speaks to you.
We are so glad to have you once again listening to LCC Remix, where we take time each week to kind of revisit our Sunday message in our current series and try to break things down a little further, which this week presents some challenges, I think, because Sunday was more or less an introduction for the following week as we continue our Rise and Build series. We've been looking at what it means to allow God to get a hold of our hearts with a holy burden for his kingdom, and how do we live that out as individuals and as a church to see his kingdom come and his will be done on earth. And this past week, the message was Rise and Build the House, the first part of the message. And we were in the book of, I'm going to say Haggai, some say Haggai, some say Haggai. What do you say? Let's take a poll.
Yes.
All the above?
Depends where you're from.
Yeah. How would you say it if you're from down south?
Hey guy.
Haggy.
Yeah. Anyway, but it's a story that probably not too many people have spent a whole lot of time looking at. When I say a story, it's not really a narrative as much as it is a prophetic word. Short little book at the end of the Old Testament. It's third to the last book, the 10th of the minor prophet books.
I'm glad you pointed out the difference between minor and major prophets.
Yeah, a lot of people, yeah.
Yeah, minor prophets are not less significant than the major prophets. They're just smaller books.
Yes, that's right. It's just the sheer volume of the work.
Yeah. It's all it is.
Obviously, Isaiah is going to be a major prophet because that is a lengthy tome.
Is that the Bible inside the Bible?
It is. It really is. It's the way it's written in the divisions, everything. It shifts. Yeah. That's a conversation definitely to have at some point.
Yeah.
But to kind of, I did spend probably more time than I should have on I don't know if it's necessarily the case, but kind of in the historical place, because I do want people to understand, like, this is history. These things happened. These people existed. They were used by God in their time. And, God still moves in history to this day and still wants to use people. And we know historically that Haggai is part of the post-exile prophets. So we're looking at the time period after we have the fall of Jerusalem in 586 BC. We have a 70-year period of exile. So we're talking the very towards the end of the 6th century BC, and moving into the prophets like Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. Haggai and Zechariah are going to be in that same time frame, the time of Ezra, the time of Nehemiah, and then later Malachi, about a century and a half later, is going to be the final prophet of the Old Testament that's going to speak. And anyway, so again, probably too much.
I thought it was Malachi.
Oh, that's the Italian prophet.
The Italian prophet. The book of Malachi.
The Malachi brothers?
Yeah.
I think I knew them. They're from Jersey. But anyway. Vinny Malachi, remember him?
He's a good guy.
Yeah, Tony Malachi.
Yeah, don't mess with him.
No. They're from Vineland, New Jersey.
Don't cross them.
Yeah. People disappear in South Jersey. This is true. Side note related to South Jersey. So I cannot remember the name of the town, but there's a town down there near the shore where Al Capone actually had a summer home down there. And there's a wooded area all around it. And they occasionally run across, in the developing of that, they've run across bodies, shallow graves, where that dude is, buried people out there, or the mafia did back in the day. And Capone was a Chicago crime family, but guess he liked the Jersey Shore.
He liked the vacation in Jersey.
But anyway, if you're listening to this, maybe you know that town. I cannot remember the town it is, but I remember doing work down there one time and driving through, and my father-in-law was like pointing at the building and like, "Oh, Capone used to live over there, had a summer home over there." And they find bodies over here. And I'm like, whoa, it's kind of crazy. Anyway. And that's your mafia moment.
Brought to you by Malachi Brothers.
Malachi Brothers. I was going to say
Brothers.
Smith and Wesson. Brought to you by Chef Boyardee.
The pizza was great.
Anyway.
Just kidding.
Anyway, so see, this is what happened on Sunday. Flurry of activity. We in this series we've been talking about, before we get into Haggai this morning, we've been talking about the kingdom of God and what it looks like to be part of what God wants to do in the world. And we know the story of Nehemiah that we started with. Nehemiah, shows up on the scene, and the walls of Jerusalem had not been rebuilt, and there's a challenge to the people to do that, and so they have to set their hearts, to the work that needs to be done. We know the story where they're working with a tool in one hand and weapons in the other, because of the opposition that they faced. The story of Haggai has to deal more with the temple being built, and that was prior to the walls being completed, which is going to come later. But the people had gotten to the land, and I think it was interesting that when the decree went out, that the vast majority of people that were in captivity, they stayed.
Yeah.
And what does that tell us about the human heart? I think there's a lesson in that. What do you if you think about it?
Jesus said, "Remember Lot's wife."
Mm-hmm.
And just a little clip there. Remember Lot's wife, and that you can be desensitized and become accustomed, used to whatever, to things that were at one time very oppressive or against your foundational beliefs, and it's something we all have to be on alert for, because we live in a world that's constantly bombarding us. But these people, they were forcibly removed from their home, taken there, and had, gotten to the point where they just kind of settled in and kind of became part of the group, just like, Lot and his wife or whatever, they, and we know how bad Sodom and Gomorrah were, but how you become, as she's, literally they're being drug out of there by the angels. Her heart was still there, and she looked back, and it didn't end well for her. But
No.
It's just amazing. But that's the condition of the human heart, though. It really is.
You said become accustomed to, but I hear get comfortable.
Yeah.
They're just comfortable with where they are. It's the status quo is okay because it would take more effort and work to change it. Let's just
look in our own society. What was shocking 30 years ago is commonplace now.
It's true.
You don't throw the pot in. You don't throw the frog into the boiling water. You put the frog in the pot and turn up the heat slowly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's nice until it's not.
Yeah, but you just that's just normal now.
And if you're going to make frog soup, you need at least 6 frogs.
At least.
At least 6 frogs. You really get that flavor in there. No, but you're right. I mean, comfort will lead to complacency. I heard it recently. I was actually a video with Wes Huff. Wes Huff? Is that yeah. And he had been asked the question, like, what's the opposite of love? Maybe you guys have seen this video. What's the opposite of love? And most people's response is what? Hate,
Should be
right?
Fear, yeah.
But he said hate's not the opposite of love. It's not the counter to love. He says apathy is the opposite. He goes, because hatred is it's still a strong emotional response that causes you to move in action in some way. But complacency. So, and when you think about your relationship with the Lord, that's the danger, is slipping into comfort and complacency. I mean, even looking at Abram before he becomes Abraham, he's called out of Ur of the Chaldeans, and I think you've talked about it, Greg. Historically, Ur at the time, I mean, it was like a city unlike anything else in the ancient
apparently
world.
they had fireplaces in their homes and running water.
Yeah.
Not like we have, but they had aqueducts and stuff.
Yeah.
Where, and it was actually a really nice place to live. And he left that and lived in a tent the rest of his life.
That's right.
A nomad, basically traveled around, but he had a heart for God, though, and he listened in spite of everything. Which that's pretty amazing that someone can. He was a wealthy man and got wealthier as time went on, but he listened to God and was not detracted by all the stuff, and that says a lot about his heart and his character.
Right. So complacency can definitely be a danger. Comfort can be a danger there. And so there were only about 50,000 Jewish exiles that returned back to Jerusalem, to the region. And at first, the work began. And for about 2 years, they were working pretty diligently. They laid the foundation. They had actually built an altar, But then they faced opposition, and everything came to a grinding halt. And there's a period when Haggai comes on the scene. It's been about 16 years of no activity. But in that same 16-year time frame, the individuals have built their homes. The scripture says they're paneled homes. So they've not only taken the time to build homes, but now they've brought lumber in. I mean, they've made them very nice homes. And they're kind of focused in on their own lives. And so he comes.
Paneling was cool up in about the 70s. I'm just kidding. I've painted a lot of paneling in my day.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a big deal. It just
it
changed,
is. Yeah,
it changed everything. But in terms of your look and but anyway, forgot what I was going with that thought.
That they
Priorities.
Their priorities were on themselves, not on on anything else, just on themselves.
Right. So that's where the word of the Lord comes to Haggai, and basically this idea where he challenged them to consider their ways. And the part of the passage that I read on Sunday, at the very beginning, it just talks about, he challenged them, you have sown much and bring in little. You eat but do not have enough. You drink but you are not filled with drink. You clothe yourselves but no one is warm. And he who earns wages to put into a bag with holes. And so he's challenging them like, hey, you have focused so much on your own life, but yet what you're focused on is not bringing satisfaction. Yeah. And so the root cause of that, I believe, is whenever we try to move without God or try to keep God out of our lives, we're denying the very thing we were made for. We were made to worship him and to know him. And so there's this challenge to reprioritize their lives.
Yeah. Like I think you talked about David, and David's the opposite. David lived in a palace and was lamenting the fact that, the tabernacle or whatever was, there wasn't a temple, a proper temple. And so once again, you see his heart and his character.
Right.
He said, well, how can I live like this?
Right.
And the sanctuary, or the ark and all that, dwell in a tent or whatever. Because, so his heart was just the opposite
to build that temple.
Yeah.
And even with the heart that he had, God's like, you're not going to be the one.
Yeah. But still, it's interesting though. He got everything together.
He did. Well, he allowed him to participate in that.
Yeah. So you can't build it, but you can get all the resources together.
Yeah.
So I'm sure when he was done, there were stacks of lumber or whatever, or stone and everything just sitting there waiting to go. All the resources, and then Solomon, of course, steps in and
One of the things I mentioned, I know in one of the services, I probably failed in the other two, but sometimes the people looked at opposition as being, this isn't God's timing. And we can fall into that trap, I think, too, because there are doors that God does open and he does shut. And you can try to open those doors and they're not going to open for you. But there's also having spiritual discernment. And this is why we need to know, we have to have a relationship with the Lord to be able to discern, is this God saying no, or is this opposition something that I'm supposed to persevere through? And there's so many applications for that in our own personal walk with the Lord. And we collectively as this body, there's applications. But anyway.
There's a difference between, you say, praying for doors to be open, doors to be closed. There's a difference between a door being closed and locked because you can't go through, and a door being closed and held that you just need to struggle a little bit to get it open.
Push it open, yeah.
So I think that discernment lets you know when it's like, am I stopping because it's inconvenient, or am I stopping because this is not the direction I'm supposed to go? Like the discernment piece is very important. 'Cause
Right.
you can use it as an excuse, where you're supposed to be, like you said, being tested, being, I don't know, changed through the process.
Persevere. Yeah.
There's something to be said for that. It's so important. And I think our default setting should always be like we're going to try to persevere from the outset, and then God gives clarity over time. I think, at least that's sometimes I've been really, really thick-headed, And I mentioned on Sunday too, I had a young man come and speak to me after the one service because he kind of feels like he's in the stage of life where there's equal opportunities to do different things. And he's been praying and trying to figure out like, God, what do you want me to do? And I talked about that sometimes there are all those different opportunities. He just wants you to be faithful. And, sometimes there's a very specific calling you're supposed to do, but other times here's 2 opportunities that you have. Whatever you choose, be faithful in it and see what God will do. And he said it was like his eyes were open, like, oh my word, like I feel like, this individual was very much like, I feel like I have an entrepreneurial mindset and God's given me some gifting. I actually started my own business. He's young, he's in his early 20s. But I also have a heart for missions. And so we had a conversation, and it was awesome because he's like, I was feeling like I was supposed to leave everything behind and maybe go on the mission field. I said, maybe that's what you're supposed to do. You need to really seek the Lord about that. I said, but it may also be that God is going to use you and stretch you in this way through business, and it's going to help you be able to help others. And then you may at one point be a missionary where you're teaching people how to do business, how to start business. You could revolutionize whole regions of people. And it was like, just like, oh wow.
Well, he could get to the point where he's completely self-funded too.
Right.
All those kind of things. Yeah. So, yeah.
I said, so just, think about that. But I think he was, because I said, it's not, unless like, without a doubt, like I'm supposed to walk away from this because this thing has become, because oftentimes it's an idol for you. Yeah. And that's why the rich young ruler, Jesus, it wasn't that he wanted everyone to get rid of their wealth. He was like, this is the thing that's got a hold of you. Yeah. And will you let it go for my kingdom's cause? But if he's open-handed with that, I do believe God gifts you and gives you those abilities so that you can further his kingdom. So I'm actually excited for where this may go with this young man.
And I think maybe we don't think about it that often, but sometimes there's not always just one right answer.
Yeah.
Maybe they're both right answers, and you just have to step into one and then just see where it goes. Mm-hmm. It's not always a like on off, right, wrong, black, white kind of thing. Sometimes there's multiple ways that you could go. You just need to commit to one.
Yeah.
So.
I had knew a guy, a friend of mine who great cabinet maker, loved the business, loved doing all that kind of stuff, but also had a heart for missions. So a couple guys got together and they started a cabinet company, and a legit, straight up cabinet company, and were doing but their whole focus was missions. Mm. And so throughout the year, different ones would take off and go on the mission field, do stuff, come back, and they were all self funded, and that's what they ended up combining both of those things.
Yeah.
So they had a legitimate business that made cabinets, kitchen cabinets and stuff, but they also used that to for the kingdom. And that's a cool thing.
Yeah.
I think we can also get trapped in thinking that, okay, so I've prayed about it. I'm clear that this is what God wants me to do. Now it's just going to be easy.
You're right.
Like I need to go, okay, so I'm called to the mission field. So God's going to just lay out it's going to be all easy. And, we talk to our global partners all the time, and there's nothing easy about it. It's a constant spiritual war, but it's also constantly, there's physical ailments. There's, blocks from governmental blocks that they're constantly trying to navigate through. Like it's never easy. And if you're sitting there praying for this easy road, it's not going to happen. Like, matter of fact, sometimes we see God working more in the difficulties that are happening and the way that we are able to persevere and work through them than we are in the like, wow, God is amazing. It's been so easy. You know, like I'm a missionary to Jamaica and I live on a beach and it's all easy. You know?
And I've noticed you've been looking at flyers lately. No, I'm just teasing.
Yes, I'm going to Boston Bay to be a missionary.
There you go. There you go.
Well, we've talked about in here before that, the flak is the heaviest when you're over the target kind of thing. Like you should expect opposition if you're walking out what the Lord has called you to do, because again, the enemy has limited resources, and if he can mess up something that looks like it's working towards what God's will is, then he's going to do that, not necessarily waste time with, again, people who are doing just fine on their own, left to their own devices kind of thing. So you should, there has to be a level of expecting some things to come against. And I think a lot of times you feel like that while you're in it, but then when you turn around and look back, like, these things came up, and yet we walked through because we were provided by this, and this was cleared, and this, it's a lot easier to see looking backwards, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. I just expect things to go wrong all the time, and I'm never disappointed. I found out a way to avoid disappointment.
So interesting that you say that, because I recently came across this thing dealing with our generation, the Gen Xers, and I think the American Journal of Psychology or something, but they were talking about that thing, what you just said, like the way that we were all raised. You had to learn to get used to disappointment, and so that your natural defense mechanism is, it's not that you're pessimistic. They said Gen Xers they're not pessimistic per se. They're realistic, and they're always like they move forward, but they're always like, at any second, like this is all going to fall apart, because they didn't have the consistency at any point in their life of like
the Murphy's Law generation.
Yeah, basically. And they said it's actually a pretty good skill set to have versus some generations that have kind of had everything. They were even talking about even boomers had it better than some of the Gen Xers, and then the ones that have come, the millennials and the Gen Z and now Gen Alpha, that the younger they are, the slightest thing off track, and it's like their whole world is collapsing.
They didn't make my mocha frap right. Yeah. I'm just saying.
Your world has collapsed.
Man, I don't understand any of the words that you just said. What? Mocha frap? I got you.
You're right. No, any little thing is like the world just ended, and it's. That comes from I don't want to say that they're super entitled, but some super entitled people, super entitled generations, because everything has been maneuvered to kind of set entire generations up with, you should always have exactly what you want. Your way is right. Don't let anybody tell you it's wrong, and it's false. But that sets up things like that. Oh, yeah. Any little thing doesn't go your way, it's the end of the world. Or you disagree with me, so you must hate me.
Yeah.
That it's not hard to trace that out and see where that goes.
That's not how it's supposed to work.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think you hit it too. Like a lot of it's not their fault.
No.
Like they've had
That's how they grew up.
They've had
part of
helicopter
it's our fault.
Who didn't want them to go through any difficulty. So I'm going to take care of everything for you, and it's not going to end when you turn a certain age or you're supposed to be an adult.
Right.
It's gonna continue until
you're 40.
I don't know. You figure it out. You're 40, and so I don't know. I'm guilty of putting a lot of blame on young adults. It's like, what is wrong with you? Like, get it together. But they have not been equipped with problem solving, ability from the get go. And so boomers for sure, but even our generation.
What
is wrong with you?
But to your point, they don't know how to necessarily get out from under it. I would say, personally, my parents fought, but they waited until we went to bed, so we never saw it. So I never learned how to deal with conflict. You know, I just did it.
I didn't learn how to deal with conflict either,
I'm just
but I
gonna-
witnessed it
just
all.
gonna walk away kind of thing. You're right. I'm just saying. I mean, parents, you need to be
Mine was
real.
just the opposite.
You can't.
That's the only time
you
they
can't
didn't
just
fight.
sugarcoat and cover every room with pillows so that so the kid doesn't fall down. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
Yeah.
you have to teach life skills
Yeah.
because eventually they're going to have to do life unless you're totally comfortable with them being 40 in your basement.
That's funny to say. I mean, in relation to marriage, that's funny because we'll sit down with couples who are getting ready to get married, and you say something like, marriage is work. It takes work every day, and they look at you like you have three heads. Like, what do you mean it's work? My parents, it's so easy. You just live together, and you just have it's marriage. It's fine. I'm like, okay, come back when you're 6 months in.
But she's my soulmate.
I finally found the one.
But again, to your point, like some of them have been given a false reality of what marriage, first of all, what marriage is, and then also like the work that it takes to have a successful marriage, And again, successful marriage isn't a marriage that is free of disagreements. It's a marriage that, again, biblically puts each other ahead of ourselves.
Oh, I was going to say successful marriage is when you win the argument all the time. But you just totally blew that out of the water. You said put the other first. No, you're right. You're right, Aaron. You're so right.
I think you nailed it when you just said false reality because that's what it is. It's a false reality, and that ties back to this false reality that I'm comfortable. We have we've been here for a generation plus. We've built our house. We have nice wood paneling on the walls. What more
room.
could we ask for? We don't need to go back. It's a false reality.
Yeah.
So again, it goes back to that whole priority thing. Putting God as the priority, and coming up this week, we're going to see the other side of the story is that when they are challenged and they begin to actually consider their ways, there's a challenge that goes out to the leaders first, to Zerubbabel and to Joshua. And then as the Spirit of the Lord begins to stir them, the people are stirred up as well. There's a natural flow to those things. And so the challenge for us, particularly as leaders, and then of course as the body of Christ here, is to put God first in the position that he deserves. And I mentioned Matthew 6 on Sunday, but when we seek His kingdom first, that's a promise from the Lord. All those other things that people worry about, we all were guilty of, He takes care of if you really trust Him. So
I like when you step into God's economy, and do things God's way. And we have a loving Father, and so we serve Him, and He takes care of us. That's but you got to get out of your own. I need to fix this. I need to handle this. I need to and serve God. Put Him first, and He does have a way of working things. It doesn't mean you're lazy. It doesn't mean you just take things for granted. But He does have a way of putting things in place, and you go on your business.
There's an old saying, Greg. You might know who said it with one of your quotes of the day, but so I'm not trying to put you on the spot. But it was, pray as if everything depends on God, and work as if everything depends on you. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
Do you know who said that? Anybody know who said that?
Yeah.
I've heard it before.
I think several people have. I don't know who the original was.
Yeah. But there's understanding that, not to be lazy, not to sit back.
Yeah.
But it's important.
Yeah. Do all things as unto the Lord. You do your best. Realize it's the Lord who fulfills the promise. Brings it all together. Yeah.
And that's what He's going to do. So if you're listening, the challenge is make God your number one priority. And see how everything else in your life will begin to align when it aligns to His will and His purposes. It's not that everything's going to be easier. I think in the short term, it's probably going to get a little more challenging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's going to be worth it in the end. absolutely is going to be worth it. So.
Well, you brought up that phrase that's mentioned 5 times.
Consider your ways.
Consider your ways.
That setting of the heart.
Moses in Psalm 90, teach me to number my days.
That I may gain a heart of wisdom.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of those things in Scripture, because a lot of times we don't take time to think and contemplate. What are my priorities? What am I doing with my time? Have I given proper time to the Lord? Or have these other things crept in, just like the frog in the water? We need to examine ourselves, and that could be tough for some people, I guess. But there's something we have to do all the time. You even have to think, what are my motives? What are my desires? What is my goal? Is it for my own, make me feel better, make me look good, or for my own gain, or am I serving the Lord? And so consider your ways, and that's something. I think I hate to put it in these words, but the person who would be successful in their Christian walk, and I don't mean it, is the person who does that. You sit down and you think about those things, and it's self-examination is a good thing. One of those quotes, again, I don't know who said it, but the unexamined life is not worth living. And so we have to come in. Christ tells us to come back with communion. We're supposed to examine our ways, think about, and be honest with ourselves, which is difficult sometimes, but be honest in where is my heart? Where is my mind? What are my motives behind what I'm doing? What is my intention? What is my, and be honest about those things, because God already knows. You're not fooling anybody, and so we have to be, honest with those things and consider our ways.
So I think that you're like exactly right on, and that's why I think that consider your ways is brilliant. Because he didn't say, search your heart. He didn't say, go pray about this. He said, consider your ways, right? I mean, we have had lots of discussions, too, about people are going to do what they want to do. And if you want to see where someone's priorities are, look at where they spend their time and money, resources, and things like that. So when he says, consider your ways, that is how you do what you just said. Yeah. That is how you say, what am I doing, and what is the reason that I'm doing this? Because you're not just doing some kind of introspective, what this could be that, whatever. You're literally looking at what are my hands and feet doing and why.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that is the way to really get to the root of what's going on in your heart and your mind.
Yeah.
Is look at what you do. What do you do?
Yeah.
Because the things that you do are directly based on what you believe and what, the things that you're trying to live out. So,
I think about these things, but just imagine, if we everybody just sit back once a week and think about your days and what did you put effort into during your day, and not only physically, but in your thoughts. What are you thinking about? What are you contemplating? What are you what are you working towards? And that's something we have to be honest with ourselves, because, God's going to be honest with us. Right.
That's good,
and He knows.
Because then when you think about it, you can say, do I need to make some adjustments?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Because again, if you don't examine it, you don't know to do that.
In particular, how many people at the end of the day, get to the end of the day, and you don't realize how many hours you have spent on your phone. What they call it, was it the death scroll? What's it called?
Doom scrolling.
Doom scrolling. Yeah.
Hold on. I'm going to post this to my Insta.
Yeah, go ahead. But seriously, how much time?
Foreign languages.
I don't know. I don't even know if I have an Instagram. I think I do.
But things like that's the real, we should say where the rubber meets the road type stuff. What did I do today? What did I learn today?
Dude, I ask myself all that all the time. Where was I today?
What did I have for lunch today?
What's my name? Why am I in this room? Yeah.
But no, that's those are the important things, because that's where we lose track, we lose our time, we lose our focus, we lose
Well, and that's, I think, for us as believers and how we approach the world that we live in, that's huge, because the command has never changed. Love God, love people, make disciples has never changed. It's always been the same, and we tend to lose the focus of what that looks like. And so considering our ways and how we approach the world around us, how we approach fellow believers around us, like that becomes a practical way of at the end of the day, what did I consume? How did I, when I am doom scrolling, what is it that I'm consuming and then regurgitating back out? One of my least favorite things is when people share somebody else's posts on social media, because it's not something I said, it's something somebody else said, but oh yeah, this is what I really want to say. And so I throw it out there, knowing that there really isn't any consequences for that, because what's the worst somebody's going to do is, block me. So there's no consequence, and I haven't said it, so it's not like I can really hold myself accountable for it. And so how we approach the world that we live in is really, really important as far as followers of Jesus. And we have to consider, today, am I loving God and loving people today in the way that I'm approaching the world that I live in? Because again, is it really that different than Sodom and Gomorrah, and is it really that different of biblical times that were going on, and they still needed Jesus just like people do today? And so how we approach that can very, very much impact how we are not just looked at by people outside of God's family, but how we're able to impact those outside of God's family in the way that so it's really important that we consider our ways when we do that. Because we can come to church on Sunday and look all churchy, but what does it look like throughout the week? So again, considering that consider your ways can be applied to so many different areas of our life.
Well, one step further, right? Because we judge ourselves less harshly than we judge others.
Yeah.
So the big question is, what if someone else was doing what you were doing? What would you think of them?
Yeah. What's been said, we judge others by their actions, we judge ourselves by our intentions.
Yeah, exactly.
And really,
but what if
wrong?
What if I saw someone doing or whatever what I'm doing, or what would I think? Because that helps us make that jump, to bridge that gap. Sometimes see things a little bit differently, but
and like you said, it comes down to what's my priority.
Yeah.
Is my priority to be a kingdom builder? Is my priority to be, a separatist in my kingdom? Unless you come to my kingdom, I don't want any part of you.
Yeah. Because my kingdom's the best.
Exactly.
The best part of this kingdom. Our kingdom got it figured out. Yeah. It's a shame. Oh. That's all good thoughts. It's a good place to stop, I think, naturally. Getting your priorities right. Are we glad that you listened?
Stay tuned for part 2.
Part 2.
Yeah.
Pastor Aaron's going to bring it on Sunday. No. Stick around for part 2. And Mom, if you're listening, I did learn how to handle conflict in an okay manner. I don't want you to be ruminating on that. Just putting that out there. A little personal note here at the end. Basically, it's Sven, my mom, and a couple other people that listen to this podcast. So, anyway, I love you.
Thanks for listening to LCC Remix. If you have any questions about this podcast, reach out via email at lccremix@lifechurchcalvert.com. LCC Remix is a podcast ministry of Life Church Calvert located in Huntingtown, Maryland. You can visit our website, lifechurchcalvert.com, or download our app by searching Life Church Calvert in your app store today.